Hello everyone, and another happy Monday to all of you out there. Welcome to the Stream of Consciousness. I am Dichotomous Prime, aka Vince. I am a West Indian, Canadian, bi tabletop game creator. I use he, him pronouns, and I do cultural consultation, sensitivity reading, as well as narrative and mechanics design in the tabletop space. However, I am also a huge fan of video games and talking design in them. As you can see from the title today, we are returning to one of my favorite kind of Zen games that I've got a lot of love for lately, Hardspace Shipbreaker. For those of you who are just checking out this game for the first time, you can actually hit !Shipbreaker in the chat to get some details on what this is about. Kind of the long and short of it is that it's guess what I would call a zero-G puzzle game. You are a salvage engineer in space, and you are taking apart ships and dismantling them and getting the valuable parts and trying to not get blown up in the process. Or is it !Game? Oh my goodness, I don't even know my own tags. There we go, it's !Game. I was wrong. We are off to a good start. But yeah, so it is a lovely little game. It's about 90% Zen, 10% catastrophic stress, as a lot of the hazards in this game are very kind of grounded, which is kind of interesting given that it's kind of a sci-fi setting. Also, hello there, Johnnies. Welcome on in. I hope that you are having, you had a good weekend and that you are having a lovely evening today. I should have, in retrospect, I might have been best advised to put these in the same tag, but I am gonna hit you with a CWTW real quick. Kind of want to give everyone a heads up off the bat. Kind of one of the big things in Shipbreaker is that there are several kind of bright explosions and use of like bright lights. Things like arcing electricity or exploding fuel tanks or exploding nuclear reactors that are melting down because I cut the wrong place like a rube. That if you do have certain photosensitive disorders, it could very well be a trigger for those. It is kind of one of the things when you boot up the game that they give you a big ol' warning right up front, so I figure it would be well served letting everyone know that. So other than that, just kind of, if you do happen to have any of those kind of phobias related to, suffocation, because you can run out of oxygen or have your helmet smashed while you're in the void of space, and just general kind of motion sickness related things, because you will end up like upside down a surprising amount in this game because there isn't really any gravity. I tried to kind of keep those in mind. If anything else comes up or if I missed anything, please let me know. You can either DM me on here or contact me on Twitter during or after the stream, and I can add those to the CWTW list. But I think that's kind of the the bulk of what you have there. It is other than when chemical things explode and things go catastrophically wrong, I like this game a lot of the time because it's a gameplay loop that doesn't really have violence at the center of it, and you can just kind of like, there are different options. You can chill and take your time. There's limited resource options, like, the version that I have right now is one where I have like infinite oxygen because I'm a yokel and I'm trying to figure out just how to approach these different situations, and just like the 10% stress part of the game already stresses me out so much that like having a timer running would just be like all the time, so I've just kind of decided not to do that. It's appreciated you have a disclaimer like this. Absolutely. I mean, I love sharing the games that bring me joy on here, and I want everybody to have a good time and be safe. So it is quite literal. Oh, hey, look at that. We got our first bot. Right off the bat, too. I want to make sure that everybody's having a good time as they come in and they can make informed decisions about their own safety. So, we're starting off with that. Let me flip over to the main game because I'm especially excited today because I was not expecting us to get an update today. We quite literally got an update about an hour before I went live, including like all of this UI is different than what it was when I played earlier. And we have a couple of new ship types as well. So I'll do probably a little wee baby ship to start off with, just for folks who have not kind of seen how the game works. And we'll just go back to that and we'll go drain disabled, career. So I've been playing this for a little while. And I like that this is fairly, you know, as the title would imply. Okay. According to Productivity Weekly, too much time is spent selecting shipbreaking tools. This is why we are rolling out Tools 4.0. In compliance with lead safety, all loadouts have been reverted to default schematics to incorporate Tools 4.0. The new tool selection is as follows. So cutter, grapple, demo. Oh, right, because we have demo charges now. I'm sure that will not go terribly, terribly wrong, because I've already managed to mess things up just with a cutting tool and a grapple before, so that should be really interesting. Okay, I got a new sticker. Look at that. Employee advancement. Boom. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Do I have... Yeah, sure. Let's put it on there. Safety third. I love it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, a lot of the... I'll be honest, it's not a lore or story heavy game, but pretty much most of what you'll see is in like data logs that you can get off the ships that are just from, you know, ghost ships from different locations, logs, emails, very kind of like Deus Ex style. And then kind of you have your equipment, which does have durability that wears down. Okay, so demo charges. Let's see, what do we got? Just demo charge license. Okay. More charges at once. Self cleanup. Reduces more reliable control over the destructive range of the explosion. Disarming mechanism. So I can't disarm it until I unlock that. That's delightful. This is gonna go terribly wrong. I can't wait. But I can just upgrade that now, so I will.
Looks like you got your hands on the demo charges. They keep discontinuing these suckers because they've taken off more hands than a meat grinder. Guess it's time to see if they fix that little issue. Or we'll find out what the sound of one hand clapping is. Weaver out.
That's our tutorial guy. Yeah, that's a thing. Let's see. So do we have... They were telling us that there is a type of ship called a Javelin. We got a bunch of ghost ships. So I might just show... Because they changed where ghost ships will actually spawn. Because they have little AI dudes attached to them, which are the aforementioned ghosts. Which will screw with the ship systems and cause them to do things that they're not actually supposed to do. Also, hello, talented Mr. Wolf, and welcome on in. I hope that you are having a lovely evening. How are the things and the stuff? Okay, so we're just gonna start because I'm curious what these javelins are gonna be like. So, when you start off this campaign, you start off with $1 billion of debt, and pretty much all of the salvage and things that you have go towards paying down that debt.
Here's a javelin. Would you take a look at that? I got to take apart a few of these back in the day before the regs changed. Anyway, the trick is you want to take them apart from the outside.
Okay,
you don't want to
interesting.
yourself into a corner once you're in there.
So that's a subversion of how we normally do things. I'm going to bring a utility key just in case, because I usually need them. And a couple of repair kits. Cool. Alright, So, when you start off, you usually have a work order of what they want you to take off of the ship. Now, you want to harvest as much as possible, but those are the things that'll get you, like, the most amount of stuff quickest. So I can do things like, this is my grapple, I can reel myself in. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing. So I have my scanner here, and this will help me identify where I can kind of start picking this thing apart. Now, this is the one thing I like about this game is you kind of have, it's very hard sci-fi. It has your basic conceit of, like, your sci-fi stuff, like, ooh, look, it's a laser tether that can move a ridiculous amount of weight. And you have your scanner, which is like, you know, X-ray vision, essentially being able to scan over different kinds of systems. And you have a cutting tool, which is a laser cutter. And that has a couple of different modes. I'm gonna have to get used to it because they actually, like, messed with the... Okay. Can I just turn it into... What's the control for my stinger now? I think I might actually have to look at the controls. Okay, so... Key mapping. So, cutter... Swap cutter. So gamepad none? Okay, that's not super useful. So execute cut, rotate cut. They don't have a default for the gamepad for this? That seems a little bit silly. Why don't I... That seems like an oversight in the update, to be 100% honest. Because normally I would just use this. Used to be... Okay, so it's right directional button. Then why didn't it say that in the tutorial? That's a little bit weird. Okay. So, interesting you say that, John East, is that the... Yeah, this is going to take some getting used to. The quote-unquote ghosts in the ghost ship are actually AI nodes. And the AI nodes cause the ship to do spoopy things, like have doors open and close on their own, and have things like when you attempt to vent the fuel from the thrusters using the engineering console, they do fun things like have the reactor meltdown. So that is, that's a thing. And so essentially what you need to do is they're almost like barnacles on the ship itself, and you need to go around and, like, cut them off, but then sometimes they'll be in spots, like, for instance, on the reactor. And if you happen to aim your cutter wrong and pierce the reactor itself, well, then you just straight up blow the reactor right off the bat. Okay, so step one, even though they said to cut it from the outside, step one on pretty much any of these ships is avoiding explosive decompression. So what we're going to do is vent everything out. Okay, so structural. So there's the cockpit's over there. This is weird. Okay, so hopefully there's nothing in this room that's gonna smack me in the face.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
Okay, cool. So one of the cool things with the scanner is that you can see whether or not a room is pressurized or depressurized. So the cockpit right now is green, is pressurized. So if I were to cut through the door, for instance, then I would just get a whole bunch of air, and anything that's not nailed down can literally crack me in the head, break my helmet, and cause me to suffocate. So yes, it is this game. And also, welcome on in, Sinziek. How are you doing today? Let's see. Magnetic Rose vibes. I don't think that I'm familiar with that. Could you go in what you mean about that there, John? I don't think that I am familiar with Magnetic Rose. So here's hoping that I don't get bludgeoned by something. Okay, so this is going to be complicated. Which, I mean, ooh, there's cut points in here. That doesn't normally happen. Alright. Interesting. Yeah, this is going to be a real challenge. So... Is there anything by way of data drives or anything I need to pick up? No? Okay. Cool. So we're just going to hit the atmospheric regulator.
Air pressure level decreasing.
Because this is going to be a puzzle in itself, I think.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
So, okay, we got... It's going to take me a real long time to get used to those controls changing. Because they used to basically swap out tools with the directional, and then you flip on your scanner using Y, but now they've swapped those two things. I'd be interested to know the justification behind that choice. Which, in case you're wondering, this game is currently in early access. It is a pretty polished early access thus far. I'm pretty happy with it.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
Okay, so what do we got in here? We got a lot in here. Okay. Oh, so is the reactor just straight up, like, right down the middle here? That seems that's a large fuel tank. Holy moly. Okay. No, the reactor is down here. Interesting. Alright. It's an anime directed by Satoshi Kon. Oh, interesting. Ship scavengers who get caught up in spoopy AI stuff on an abandoned space station. Interesting. I'm intrigued. Count me interested. Okay, so the way they describe the Javelins, it makes kind of sense that they have the fuel tank right in the middle here, because these are supposed to be super fast, light ships, and the cargo's on the outside. I feel like that's a bad choice, because, you know, things that could damage cargo in space are usually on the outside of the ship. But hey, what do you know? I'm not a ship engineer. Okay, so there's going to be multiple entrances to this ship, I'm guessing. Does that mean multiple airlocks? Reaction, compartment, engine. Yep, there's another airlock right over here. So I need to get... I need to get the layout of this before I start cutting, or I'm gonna, like, blow myself up. Actually, let me see. Are these cut points? Can I just cut these right off? Because I don't think there's anything holding it on, or is there? Because you got those two cut points there, but those are on the inside. Because, like, I could try and angle it, but that kind of seems like a bad call. So, this is our first cut on the Javelin. That's a lot of heat that takes. Okay, so, one of the things you'll note is that with the durability of my equipment... Grapple? Come here. Come here, you bastard. Okay, so that other cut point doesn't really move things a whole lot. So I have a charged push with this. It is a very useful little tool. However, the game has, like, realistic physics. So there's a certain maximum amount that your charged push can move. But the Newton's laws apply. So, for instance, if I happen to try and push something that is heavier than what my thing can push, I'll try and push this ship as an example. I get pushed instead. I have, more than once, accidentally launched myself into the incinerator. Because I'm a professional gamer like that. So, basically, the hazards, though you have your suspension of disbelief in Shipbreaker from kind of your sci-fi type tools. I like that they kind of have your, all right, let's just give the game its premise. Here are your sci-fi tools that don't exist in real life. But beyond that, the hazards that you face are mostly just physics and engineering-based hazards. You know, you cut through the fuel line, something can explode. But it'll explode worse if you happen to be in a pressurized area because there's oxygen there for it to burn. Likewise, if you have something explode and there's and there happens to be an electrical panel nearby, you can hit that, and if that starts to arc, then it can hit metal surfaces, and those things can become electrified and shock you. So it's what I was actually kind of giving some thought to it earlier in terms of how I would refer to this type of gameplay. Namely that you don't actually have to have a whole ton of complexity in terms of elaborate mechanics and kind of making these different things up. Because you can just have these, you know, fairly, I want to say mundane set of hazards, but you can have them generate endless amounts of complexity in your gameplay just by watching them cascade and bounce off of one another. And kind of relating this back to tabletop, if you are someone who designs in the OSR tradition, old school revolution or old school revival for those unaware, then a lot of the different kind of design ethos, is the plural of ethos? I'm gonna say it is, sure. A lot of the design choices and ethos about that particular tradition are very based around flexibility. So in a sort of way, it's a kind of parallel that Shipbreaker and OSR type design has in common. OSR has a whole bunch of these randomized tables that you can take these entries on, and hey, what do you know? This rolls 6 times and you have an adventure. Whereas Shipbreaker has, like, you know, you have the risks of, say, explosive decompression, you have different kind of mundane engineering hazards, like, you know, explosive fuel and all of these sorts of things, and, you know, making sure that you, like, vent fuel and, like, start to shut things down before you start to cut into them. And they're, on their own, they're pretty simple to try and deal with. But when one thing goes wrong, other things can start going wrong, and everything can kind of trigger and, like, Plinko game off of itself, and you all of a sudden have a very complex situation that you have to deal with. And so I like how the game has kind of committed to, you know, no, there are no little green men that are going to hop on here. No, there are probably not going to be any of these, like, enemies that you're going to shoot with your cutting tool or anything like that. They're just kind of sticking with, no, there are enough things in terms of how physics works that will pose a danger to you that we don't really need to have all of this extra stuff that we're talking about. And I like the consistency and the commitment to creating that kind of experience. Because it is very refreshing compared to, for instance, like 100 different shooter games that you'll see on Steam or something like that. Ethoses. Interesting. Today I learned. Let's see, catching up on chat here. Part of Memories, a collection of short films. Work Safety Simulator. Yes, it is. I believe it was Gift Nova who I was joking with, and I think it was her who said, like, oh, this is what Isaac from Dead Space was actually supposed to be doing on every other day besides the day that, like, someone decided to fuck around and, like, create a monolith that, like, destroys people's minds and turns them into angry zombie stabby hand things with an appetite that only faces can fill. And I mean, if you look at the cutting tool, it's basically like Isaac's line gun, except what you're actually supposed to be using it for. So I like how this is a game about, like, you know, being a salvager or being a shipbreaker, and all of the gameplay and the design choices are centered around that. It's mostly resource management in terms of the duration of your, or the what's the word I'm looking for? The durability of your tools, the use of your thruster fuel, in other modes besides this one, your oxygen, and the fact that at the end of each shift you are build rentals for your equipment and your hab that you sleep in. So the longer that you take and the more shifts that you take to cut down a ship, the less money that you make. So you're incentivized to try and do it as efficiently as possible. I'm just going to scan this to make sure I'm not going to cut something important. What are you? Is it just titanium? Because I can just put that in the furnace. All right. So I need to find an engineering panel, actually, because if I start to cut these, like, auxiliary thrusters off without venting the fuel, they can also explode. So I need to find a panel somewhere. Alright, so where did I come out here? So that's one airlock. That's one thing about this game, is you can actually get lost inside a ship. If it's big enough. Okay, power cells. Good to know that those are there. I don't want to accidentally skim one of these and send electricity arcing everywhere. That's also important because on these larger ships, sometimes they'll have a separate power generator, but if I take that power generator off, normally it shuts everything down, unless it has an independent power source, which are what these are. So I also have to make sure to remove those for whatever they are powering. Okay, so let me just look here. Yep, we have our electrical. We have that. Okay. I also just like the real twangy, like, Firefly space western sort of dealy that they have with the music, the aesthetic. Everything is really on point, and kind of everything fires on all cylinders to create a very specific type of gameplay experience, and I really enjoy that. Okay, so let's bust out our scanner. It looks like we have a secondary cockpit or compartment over there, which is, I think, a first, honestly. Because, you know, some of these will have, like, they'll be the equivalent of, like, a 747 jet. Like, there'll be passenger ships. And those will sometimes have bunks in them. But, like, a full actual cockpit with controls in it, usually there's just one. Okay. Sci-fi media uses Western music. Is there a lot? Because I feel like that's kind of a more recent thing in terms of the use of the aesthetic. Admittedly, like, and we're talking, like, 1980s, so way back in the day. But, like, the original, like, Battlestar Galactica, a lot of the stuff with that was very kind of structured like a Western, though it didn't, it still used the very kind of, like, soaring Star Trek style, like, score and things like that. But the actual use of just kind of, like, the twangy acoustic stuff, I feel like is a more recent thing. Though I could be wrong. Okay. So, do I have anything that I should loot in here? Hello. That looks like a data drive. Hello, I will take that. Thank you. Okay. So this is going to be really interesting. So it's suggesting that I take the ship apart from the outside. Which I can see how. Though this is going to be especially challenging for
airlock pressure levels dropping.
Certain things in here. This is supposed to be an easy harvest. which is interesting. I don't know if I would necessarily agree, because there's a lot going on here. But that could just be the novelty of the whole thing. Alright, so this whole area is pressurized. So that means we're going to have an atmospheric control in here. There you are. Perfect. So, let's just vent this.
Air pressure level decreasing.
Cool. So, and there's not an engineering panel anywhere, huh? Okay, why is that pressurized now? That's going to be annoying.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
Okay, I think we're good. If it's going to be anywhere, it's probably going to be in the other wing over here. Though it looks like we have a whole, like, engine chamber back here, it looks like? Question mark? Yeah, because we have... It's a Class 1 reactor. Okay. Which, you know, this is a smaller ship, so that kind of makes sense. Okay. So, let me just depressurize everything so we don't get jettisoned out into the void of space, because that would be bad. Okay, so we have a thruster. Yeah, where are my electric systems? So, computer console. Oh, the engineering thing was over there? Okay, so that explains why I was all confused, because I thought it was a secondary cockpit, but it looks like it's an engineering room. So I just walked right past it. Or it's not? Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So I might just have to do this manually, which is gonna be potentially disastrous for me and entertaining for all of you. So let's see what happens. Because, you know, it's that sort of thing where I know how I'm supposed to do it, which is I take a utility key and there's a certain panel that I'm supposed to manually vent fuel from. But if it's not there, then I kind of just have to go YOLO fuck it and take the fuel out manually. Is it going to be attached to maybe the big old fuel tank here? Is that the play? Oh, what are you? Those are all power cells. Amplifier, that's new. Well, we're gonna get rid of it. Let's hope that this isn't something that blows up. Okay. How about that? No? Alright. Interesting. Because it's a cut point. It says that it's a cut point, but I cannot... Oh, but... that's a little bit weird. What happens if... Oh, it was highlighting something behind it. Cool. Cool. Is there something attaching it to the inside? Yes, there is. Okay, cool. Let me just flip the orientation here. Slice whatever this is off. And then grapple. And that goes down to the barge. Cool. Perfect. Alright.
Salvage secured. Credits deposited.
The prospect of trying to remove the giant fuel tanks manually gives me agita, but I think unless I find a a control switch on this next sweep of the cockpit here. I think that's what we're gonna have to do.
Cutter, your equipment durability is dropping. Keep an eye on it. You don't want to be dangling in the wind with busted tools.
Interesting.
Head on back to the hab and use a repair kit to fix them up.
But then that will also end my shift, which is kind of your general... You want to take... It incentivizes you to maybe be a bit more risky than you should, which, hey, welcome to late-stage capitalism in space. And I'm on systems. Okay. Because, yeah, you can see... Interesting. Ooh, wait. Hello. Flush fuel from nacelles and conjoined pipes. Okay. This is probably going to go terribly. But here it goes. No. Okay. Cool. Was expecting an explosion. Didn't get one. Cool. Love it. Love that for me. Okay. Now we can start cutting off these auxiliary thrusters. Okay, so I need to get out back into the crawl space of the ship so I can start cutting those off. Where are you? Where are you? There you are. That's an airlock. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. Airlock, airlock. Right. Take the ship apart from the outside. Hey, short-term memory deficits. Love having ADHD. Okay, cool. So, take the ship apart from the outside. Let's give it a shot. Because, yeah, that would have been very, very bad. So, it's saying that the fuel's been flushed. Okay. Okay. So, I want to trust it, but I feel like... well, only one way to find out whether or not it explodes. It's all good. I have infinite lives for a reason. Whatever. It's gonna be a big ol' explosion if this thing goes, though. This is quite literally the largest fuel tank I've seen, including, like, the massive other ships that I've been taking apart.
Cutter, your gear's getting low. It's gonna start fighting you if you don't head on back to the hab and make some repairs.
Yeah, that's real cool, dude. Which I'm interested to see what that means. Okay, didn't explode. Again, love to see it. Now, I think it's interesting. The way that they seem to be doing this is that you can see the cutter temperature at the bottom right-hand corner. When my durability goes down, it cuts down the maximum temperature that I can actually have it sustain at. I need a higher temperature to be able to cut through more durable parts of the ship. So that's an interesting way to gamify that. So yeah, we'll see whether or not there are any other auxiliary effects that happen. But if that's kind of the long and short of it, I feel like I can handle it. You know, famous last words. But we'll see. We shall see. Switch to the Stinger. And let's take these out. Well, here, let me see if I can pull something fancy. I am 100% going to regret this. If I can get both at once, that would be lovely. And cut down on my durability loss. But, you know, getting fancy also ends poorly sometimes. So we shall see. Cool. Alright. And another one. Aces. Cool. grapple. Move that away. And then we send it down to the barge. Once I line it up properly anyways. Boom. Yeah, I think I can get that just past the ship without bumping anything. Perfect. Charge that sucker up. Boom.
Salvage deposit.
That's what we love to see.
Credits transferred.
Let's see. Outer Wilds and Border. Ah, yeah, that's also true. I haven't played Outer Wilds yet, though it has come mightily recommended to me, and it's on my queue, definitely. Exploration, essentially the new Wild West. I have a lot of thoughts about kind of the themes of kind of things adjacent to colonialism in the Wild West as it purports to outer space and sci-fi. So I feel you on that. I think that that's a really interesting parallel to draw and explore. Okay, so I do need that thruster. So I need to get over there and deal with whatever it is over there that I need to do. Because, yeah, no, and it's still pressurized. That's interesting. So how do I get into that crawl space? I think there's going to be an internal airlock, maybe? That's what I can only assume, I suppose. Okay. Back into the belly of the beast. Because we've got the fuel flushed. That's really interesting. Because the actual interior of the ship is decompressed, but the chamber where the actual engine is not. That's very interesting. So I gotta figure out where I'm gonna access that from. Because if I try and, for instance, cut this out, it's gonna explode from the inside there. So thrust, reactor. There's another airlock there. So there's a pressurized compartment there. Is there a maintenance hatch, maybe? Doesn't look like it. That's tricky. That's just a panel, so that's gonna explode outwards when I get to it. It might be a situation where I might have to do the thruster last, I suppose. That's tricky. That's real tricky. The thruster and the reactor are usually your two biggest, like, pieces that'll get you the most amount of, why is this? That's compressed as well? Is there a hatch up here? No such luck, huh? Dang, okay. This might be a front half, back half sort of situation. Like I gotta just kind of leave that and then just deal with everything up here first. Because everything is decompressed here, I can start kind of hacking away at it. Okay, so we'll do that. And at least make a little bit of progress there. Beautiful. Alright. That's interesting. It's too large for my grapple to kind of move on its own. Which, I mean, it's a whole ass compartment. It kind of makes sense, but still interesting. And I can't cut through most of that, but it does look like I can kind of nudge this a little bit. Just a wee little bit. No? Okay. Well, we're gonna try and tether it just to get it moving a little bit. So I can maybe create an opening. So that's just going to tow that forward, and I don't actually need to tow it for very long because we're in the void of space, and inertia is a thing. So now I can just go in here. There's a little bit of cargo. I'm going to take that. If it fits through the door, thank you. And bada boom. Perfect. Love to see it.
Secured. Credits deposited.
Okay, now we start taking this chunk apart. Yeah, I'm gonna be racking my brain on how to deal with that other situation there. Cause like, I've still got power in that back half of the ship. So if there are airlocks that I can arrange in a certain configuration, I can, you know, decompress that whole crawl space. But by that same token, I don't really know where those are, because it's mostly just the crawl space on the inside of the ship, which is usually decompressed because you don't really have people who don't have spacesuits jumping around in there. Give me this computer panel. Thank you. I'm gonna send that down there. Send.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
These are gonna really wear down my durability, it looks like. Which actually, let me... 76 and 74? And I was starting to get, like, warnings about durability already on that? That's surprising. That is very unforgiving. Okay. So, we're just gonna repo man the entirety out of the fuck out of the inside of this. Just take all the computers. All of the computers.
No credit applied.
Yeah, holy crap, that takes a lot to pull that off. I was not expecting that.
Cutter, don't forget your equipment durability doesn't take care of itself. If your gear's acting up on you, best practice is to patch it up in the half. Your tools should be working for you, not the other way around.
Yeah, they really give you those warnings, like, right, like, 75% durability is still most of my durability.
Salvage secured.
What am I detaching this from? Okay, the stand that it's attached to, apparently? Okay, cool. I just work here, man. That works. Okay.
Credits deposited.
Also, I hope there's a way to turn those barks off, because I can see those, like, continual warnings getting really annoying. Can all of this go to the processor? Because I might not even just waste the durability taking it apart. I do probably need that, though, because those atmospheric regulators are valuable. And I think that's everything on the inside. Yeah, it's pretty much just the glass goes to the furnace, and everything else goes to the processor. Can I cut through that? Is the next question. Yeah, that's not worth it. That's 100% not even worth it. Into the processor you go. Okay, what's the clipping problem with that? That's strange. Oh well. Luckily, I upgraded the crap out of all of my tethers, so I have a whole ton of them. Chug giant ship parts right towards Earth. Yeah, exactly. It is chug ship parts the game, really.
Credits awarded.
Okay. Interesting. So, we've got that taken care of. That's kind of our first big chonky component. So, what I'm thinking is there are going to be, like, guy wires here, or, like, the actual frame of the ship that will attach that to the central portion to the back. So if I can start dividing those down, that will also help kind of... My thrusters are damaged. Okay. So what is that gonna mean? Because luckily, I don't really tend to move that fast when I'm using my thrusters. Because doing that usually ends badly with me rocketing into a furnace or something. But we'll find out, I'm sure, in catastrophic fashion. And grapple, and push, and charge push. Boom. Love it. And I can cut that off. And it's pretty much like peeling the ship like an onion, which if you're just kind of like, you know what, I've got a couple hours in the afternoon, I'm just gonna play some games and like in no particular direction or like have a quest or a mission you want to do, like Shipbreaker is actually pretty great for that. I have definitely just like, you know, I have a space in the afternoon, I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take a ship apart, sure, why not? It's very, well, I mean, I suppose it's the opposite of like a jigsaw puzzle, in like the most literal sense. Except, you know, if there was a jigsaw puzzle that had like incredibly flammable liquids, or some of the pieces blew up in your face, you know. Take that off. Grapple, push. Grab that. Charge push. Boom. Perfect. And yeah, absolutely, if you have a piece that moves, like everything moves according to physics in this game. So if you have a piece that moves that's large enough and moves fast enough and you happen to be in the game, it will fuck you up. It will absolutely just run into your face and crack your helmet and all that kind of bad stuff. And yes, John, it is very satisfying. It's like, it's very systematic in a way that my particular brain quite enjoys. Ooh, that's a level 2 cut. I can't do that. Now, how do I deal with level 2 cuts is the question. So I would just like cut along the frame here, I guess, which frankly sounds like a terrible idea because it looks like I would skim the fuel tank and blow it to shit. So I guess I could tow it, because there's the fuel pipe and there's the fuel tank, and I need the tank to go to the barge, which is down there. So I think what we might be doing, yeah, well, I'll finish off the thrusters first and not get like sidetracked, and then we'll come back to that, because that's gonna be a real puzzle, I think. And the cool thing about the ships as well, John, is that they're procedurally generated. So even though there are archetypes of ships that will have certain types of hazards or certain types of resources, the ships themselves are like randomly generated every time you load in. So it's quite literally just like a different challenge each time that you come in to play the game. So it's very satisfying. Let me just switch the orientation of the head. And we're just gonna slicey slice right there. Perfect. Grapple, push. Boom. There we go.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Let's see here. Hello there, Timo B. How are you doing today? The stream is going very well. We're just having a chill time taking apart ships in Hardspace Shipbreaker. How are you doing today? How's your Monday going? I hope that you had a good weekend. Let me get my cutter out. I can cut through that. Interesting. Interesting, interesting. That is a relevant development. Okay, so we're gonna switch cut heads. How much of this frame can I cut through at once? It looks like the answer is a bunch of it, so we might actually do that. So let's line up as much of this as I can. Ooh, wait, that's a fuel line, I think. Is that a fuel line or is that part of the frame? Okay, that's just part of the frame. because the loss of a fuel line or a coolant line is not what we want. That would be bad. Okay, and one more of these. And apart from a couple of remaining girders, we might fully have the cockpit and crew area of the ship detached from the fuel line. So we'll be able to deal with that systematically later. But it still looks like, despite the game's advice to take it apart from the outside, that there's a fair number of welds and cut points on the inside of the ship. So I am going to have to go back inside. Which, you know, is doable. But it is maybe counterintuitive, I suppose. But we'll see. So there is a heat sink, which makes sense because if you have an engine this powerful and a fuel tank that big, you're probably gonna need something to deal with the heat output from that. This is a very, like, engineering-minded game. I kind of like it a lot. Okay, we're scanner. Okay. And I don't think anything's gonna explode if I cut this. Famous last words. Okay. That's very interesting. A lot of these components are taking a lot more heat to actually cut through, which is very interesting. It really seems like they revamped their approach to durability, which I ultimately think is a good thing, because, like, I'll be 100% honest, when I was playing this game before, and that needs to go to the processor. Okay, how big is this? I cannot grapple push that. This is just the outside of the ship. I've gotten rid of all of those. What else is holding this on? Probably this guy right here. Beautiful. I'll admit, like, most of the time when I was playing with this, I was running my cutter right down to 0 durability because there was no consequence for it. Like, and I could just save my money on repair kits. Like, pretty much the only consequence was that, like, my grapple couldn't pull something as heavy, and I think there was, like, a loss of precision in the actual cutting tool. So, you know, I don't want to cut AI nodes, for instance, off of a reactor with a cutting tool that's at 0% durability. But, like, for most other stuff, it's fine. Don't even need to worry about it, really. Let's see here. Oh, hello there, Sophia. I missed you come in. How are you doing today? Hope that you as well are having a lovely Monday. Are you just swinging by before bed? Thank you very much, Rascal. So that is what we need the charges for. Good to know. God, using explosives next to a huge fuel tank. That's not nerve-wracking at all. Okay. Come on. Thank you. Okay. Oh, is it starting to float away? It does look like it's detached, question mark. Because ooh, interesting. So the airlocks are going to keep a couple of these panels fastened, it looks like. So I'm going to try an experiment and see if I try and tether this panel that the heatsink is attached to, if it tows the whole ship, or it just tows this thing off. Because then we will know whether or not it's detached. Haha, it is. Hypothesis proven. Love to see it. Perfect. Now we're just going to float you down here. And all of this stuff goes to the processor.
Deposited.
So this is nice and simple. Okay. The angles on this are going to be a little bit weird. Whoa, I lost some frames there. Okay. And I think, yeah, 1 tether should be plenty for that, I think. Fiddling around with my RPG Maker project. Ooh, is that something you're making for school? Or is that something you're doing in your own spare time as a hobby or passion project? Filling out a table suite, writing paragraph form text. Yeah, no, that is your whole industry. Oh, lovely.
Credits deposited.
You gotta love, you know, the sign of quality in a human being really is like, you know, if someone attacks journalists, that's a quality human being right there, you know? So yeah, sorry to hear that. I saw that wild, like, trailer that's being put out of just, like, there was a terrible disease and most people were, like, shutting down sports like reasonable human beings, but one man stood against the tide of, like, common sense and reasonable compassion, and that man is a thumb that wears a suit named Dana White. It's like, good lord. And yet it seems so par for the course, just kind of seeing the whole, like, oh, okay, this spinning ignorance into bravery in the midst of a pandemic, yeah, that seems about right. I'm gonna double check that this is decompressed before I explode myself. It is. Okay, cool. Good to know. Boopity boop. And boopity boop. Airlock's done. So, is this a separate panel that I can take off? And if so, what is it attached to? Or is this just the whole thing, just one big ass piece? Because that would be new. I'm not gonna lie, that would be a choice that the designers could make. And yeah, I'm not even gonna try and, because those are gonna arc the moment that I take those off. And they're gonna all arc to each other. So usually what I would do is take the whole panel, but then I'm not really gonna have a whole ton of room to tow that if I take that off because the crawl space is so small. So I think we're gonna continue to explore what the anatomy of the inside of this thing is like. Because I think we have one more. Yep, we got a couple more right over here. Cutter, stinger head. Spare time to learn it. Yes! Always good to experiment with your tools. That way you become more proficient at them. So good on you for focusing your energy into that, for sure. Come on, what am I running up against? There we go. I thought it was gonna damage the airlock there. Okay, good. I feel like I am gonna actually have to... I'm curious to see if there are any other consequences for not repairing your shit. Other than just, like, reduced heat capacity. Because I can kind of deal with reduced heat capacity, it's fine. I just need to be more efficient with how I deal with it. But if it's just gonna, like, literally explode in my hand or, like, go off in a wild direction, that could be an interesting way to kind of have the risk side of the risk-reward equation for players. Because, you know, if you're trying to make a very precise cut near something volatile, that could be something that you don't want to screw up. Yeah, RPG Maker's been, like, just such a great... It's interesting because we talk about accessibility in terms of, like... oh, wait, I need to send you over there. We talk about accessibility in terms of, like, disabilities and things like that, but, like... accessibility in terms of people who want to start making video games. It's just such an invaluable tool to, like, even if you don't necessarily like want to make video games using RPG Maker, it's such a great sort of template to just kind of start experimenting with things. Let's see here. We got this guy, which we are going to need charges for. So let's see how that works. Oh, it shows me an explosive radius. That's kind of cool and very, very useful. Okay.
Great job, Cutter. Now just make sure to clear the area before detonating that bad boy.
So then I would press R1 to detonate it? Or I could just throw it. That's also a thing I can do, apparently. Interesting. Interesting. Welp. They gave me an option to throw it. Mode swap. Okay.
You sure your charge is in the right spot? Measure twice, cut once, Cutter. Ready? Now give that trigger a squeeze.
Okay. How about I...
And lift off. See, Cutter? That's how it's done.
Interesting. It's very, like... I don't know that explosions work that way. Like, it's just horizontal. But interesting. It definitely adds a new dimension to the game. I will say that. Okay. So, once again, let's just make sure I don't have anything volatile in the blast radius. And we're gonna go... Oh, and you can change the orientation of the explosion. Also interesting. And now we're just gonna mode swap. These should be out of the way.
Warning. Fuel levels are low.
Well, we're gonna find out, aren't we? I'm just gonna back up real quick and... Ashkaboo. Well, I don't know what that blew up. That was interesting. But the important thing is we learned. So, all right. Let's see here. Anyways, let's just hope that the remainder of my ship doesn't float off into the endless void. And I can collect the various pieces that are left over. Now, it didn't tell me that the power cells were destroyed. Aha, they're not. So, why did... Oh, wait. Interesting thought. So, it gives me the option to set multiple charges at once. The reason why that jettisoned that whole section of the ship upwards is because that final charge, like, the direction of the force pushed everything up because there wasn't another charge on the opposite side. If I were to set two charges on opposite sides of the ship at the same time, then it could detonate and then presumably, at least, keep everything in place. So, that's another very interesting use of the physics in this game. Maybe not... It's kind of playing with how... It's being a little bit liberal with how things actually function with explosives in real life. But, I mean, it's an interesting and novel approach. I'll give it that, for sure. Alright, now we're just gonna put this big metal donut over here. Okay. It can, but the explosive needs to contain the explosion on the other sides. Exactly. Let's see. So, we've still got this whole, like, cabin up here. Because there's, like, a bunch of stuff on the inside of this that is actually valuable that I want to harvest. Okay. So there is an airlock panel up here that... Oh, wait, it's still attached to something. I don't know what it's attached to. Let's find out. I don't... So it's like half of the capsule is still attached to it? Or it's like the whole ring is still attached to it? That's interesting. I guess I need to cut more of the frame out from this thing then. Boop 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 boop.
Processing valuable objects.
Hey!
Credits awarded.
We got our objective succeeded at, fulfilled, however you want to call it. Okay. So I'm gonna try and just kind of tether this just so I can get it out of the way momentarily. Yeah, what is still holding you on? It's like being dragged by something on the interior. I don't know if I forgot to cut something or... Here we are. Yeah, it looks like the actual airlock itself is like keeping it tethered to the frame, which is not ideal. This is also the type of game that will leave me tilting my head back and forth to try and figure out where I'm like oriented. Okay. So how about nope, that was not what I wanted to do. Come on, reel me back in. Save me. There we go. Okay. So how about I tow you? Could I do that? Does that do anything for you? Kind of? Kind of, sort of? Not really? This is weird. It's a whole ass mess in there. Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna try and cut this out from in here and maybe it'll make my life a lot easier. There we go. There's always like one bit that I forget to cut. And then I just tow the whole ship into the incinerator. Oh, hello there, Eldritch Crow. How are you doing tonight? Ooh, welcome on in. I hope that you are having a lovely Monday, and thanks for dropping by the stream. Okay. So we're gonna try and give this another shot. Now that I've cut that one section off. And hopefully, firmly grasp it. Yeah, no, this segment of airlock is like keeping these two pieces attached. And it's pissing me off. Okay. I don't want to use another charge on that because I feel like I'm going to blow something up that I don't actually want to blow up. Okay, just stay where I want you to be so that I can cut you. There's some weird movement stuff going on here right now. No. Come on. Well, that would be the issue with my thrusters, is that they are not keeping me perfectly still, so I can't cut as precisely as I would like. So, hey, that's kind of on me, and that is a useful addition to how they are handling durability and the effects on gameplay. I rationalize to myself as I am mildly frustrated.
Levels are critical.
But we're figuring it out. We're getting there. Okay, so we've got that detached. My fuel levels are critical. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to hop back to the hab and, like, repair all my shit and get whatever measly credits I actually get for this ship. Oh, whoa, doggy. Okay. I actually might need another repair kit because my scanner's all screwed up too. There we go. Alright. Let's see what we get. Alright. Oh, thank you very much for the subscription there, Eldritch Crow. I appreciate you. Big hype for the sub. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Especially appreciated these times of years. And I hope that we are able to provide a nice little good start to the week for you. And yes, happy holidays to you as well. It's very much appreciated. And yeah, no, this Hardspace Shipbreaker, I am a big fan of this game, even in its early access stages right now. We're currently listen, we got an anonymous cheerer's gift for a new emote. Well, hot diggity damn, that is lovely. And we are definitely gonna throw a thank you out there. And look at all that. Y'all are amazing. The generosity, for real. I appreciate that. That's you know, things can get a little bit tough these times of year, so any kind of the generosity, and I hope that, you know, you found something in the stream that kept you coming back and gives you a little bit something to smile at the beginning of the week, because God knows we need something right now, right? So yeah, that's pretty awesome. Let me catch up on chat because I haven't in a little bit here. Fit well into my new sleep schedule. Hey, look at that. Perfect. I know Sophia drops by right before she goes to bed as well. So, hey, if it's my dulcet tones that are sending you off to sleep, I will take that as a compliment. Unread messages accessing your Hab message app. Okay. So is that new? So that's one that I saw there. Ghost ships, edges of the frontier, semi-regular shipments of ship abandoned near the edges of the frontier, okay, so I do remember that. Interesting. Okay, so I apparently don't have anything new. Cool. Where's my data log that I picked up from the ship? Because normally I can get a few credits for de-encrypting that. I don't know where it went. Okay, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna repair that. We're definitely gonna repair that. And my scanner is actually pretty decent. And my grapple's pretty decent. So we're gonna leave that. Now we have more capacity for demo charges. Reliable control over... I wonder what that's gonna look like. Explosion size is reduced. Okay. Alright, interesting. Disarming is 2 times easier. There's gonna be like a skill challenge for me to disarm my own bombs? That's messed up, dude. That's messed up. But then also capitalism, so okay. There we go. Doop-a-doop-doop-doo. And yes, so yeah, one more before I get back to gaming again. Thank you again to Eldritch Crow for the 3-month sub in advance, and thank you to the anonymous gifter, whoever gifted those subs out. Y'all are tremendously lovely human beings, and I appreciate you, for real. And I will continue to endeavor to make entertaining and educational content, hopefully, that will inspire people to also make cool games and check out maybe some games that you otherwise might not have. So, okay, so let's see. We're gonna continue the salvage, because I'm enjoying puzzling out this new this new scenario. And oh yeah, no, half of the ship is still just over here. Okay, so I should be able to pull that out of here now. Yep. Perfect. And you go down to the barge.
Salvage secured. Account
You
credit
get
applied.
towed in there. I'm hoping that this internal component here doesn't get pulled in with it, but it might. We'll see. I might tether that over here just to pull it back. One thing I've started doing a lot more often is just using the tethers to, like, random shit in the environment. If, you know, a chunk of the ship gets maybe a little bit uncomfortably close to the incinerator or somewhere that I otherwise don't want it to go.
Valuable object.
Okay. So is there anything in here that's left that I don't want to just go into the processor? Because I have... So that I want to go to the barge. So we're gonna pop this off real quick. Now I'm wondering if you look there when I'm like highlighting it, there's a section of that little area, and I think that's the durability of it. I'm not entirely sure, but there's a bit crossed out in the same way that a chunk of my cutting tool was crossed out when it was damaged. Come here. Come to my grappler. Or wait, no, I don't even need to tow that back. Go into the processor. Never mind. You can go over there. Cool.
Object accepted.
I thought that was like a nacelle or whatever it's called. Because the attaching components look pretty much the same. Okay, so all of that can go to the furnace, but I'm also not feeling spending oh, wait, there's another panel here that can too. God damn it. Okay, so I need to slice that off the frame, which I can do. I've done that before. So we're gonna switch cut heads, switch orientation. We're gonna use my X-ray vision to line that up real nice. And like that, maybe? This is one of those times when if you're like a precision-based person like me, it'll absolutely drive you up the wall. Okay, and now for me to not get sucked into the processor, while I wheel around, grapple this, and send it over here. Cool. Okay. So all of that could also go into the furnace. But this is also like 5 different kind of components here. Like if I try and cut it, I'll show you guys here. With the cut tool. Or will it actually act all the way across? No. You see how those dots end at that component? It's like 9 different panels. And yeah, sometimes it's kind of not worth it. So instead, we're gonna make this last cut and grapple. Where's this component? So that should be detached. And then let me just reorient myself real quick. There we go. There we are. Okay. And oh wait, there's still another girder over there. I didn't even notice. Beautiful. Perfect. All right. Now, I think, fingers crossed, this should be detached. Beautiful. Okay, so now I can tow this into the processor. And shaboom. Perfect. And that should be fine. I think that if there's a couple of pieces on there that should go to the incinerator, I'm okay with that as an acceptable loss, honestly. Come here. And then we're just gonna line you up real nice. Just send it in there like a big old pizza. Now, what might be interesting as an option, rather than necessarily using...
Material deposit.
Hey, look at that. Objective complete. Because I feel like my charges right now might be a little bit imprecise for this. Well, we'll see, actually. Let me switch modes. Okay, so that would go on there. So if I place that there, right now that would pierce the fuel line and fuck everything up. So let me... And I can orient it differently. That's the thing, right? I'm gonna forget the controllers and totally screw that up. Yep, no, that's bad. Okay, that is not what I wanted to do. Yeah, because that's well within the blast radius there. Yep, no, alright, cool. Well, time to switch away from that, and I might be able to just cut away at the frame, because, yeah, otherwise that's just gonna blow up for no good goddamn reason. And that's on me. So, let's go back to our original plan of trying to cut away the frame here. Because I did a big ol'... I did a big wrong. Did a big ol' wrong. Okay, so... Got a chunk of the frame there. We can cut through that. And I've got a fair bit of range on this. And the fuel has already been taken out of the fuel lines attaching this thing. So, hypothetically, I might be able to just tow it out. Or is it attached directly? Because if it's attached directly, then ugh, not entirely sure what we're going to do in that scenario. In fact, here, let me put my scanner on just to make sure. Okay, so we have a main connection point there. And is there one on the other side? So that's interesting, because I can cut through this, but I can't cut through this part. So I'll probably have a little bit of waste, but if the other alternative is me just blowing up the goddamn fuel tank, then hey, we can attempt this at least. Okay, and that's not gonna skim that if I cut through it. Okay. Every time it beeps, I get nervous, because beeping is never a good thing in this game. Okay. So... Or at least it's almost never a good thing. Okay. So... okay, so that's a separate component there. So I could just do each of these individually. Potentially, anyways. Because, yeah, where do these go? Those are already detached because I already cut those off. That's fine. So, if I... Oh yeah, we can do that. That actually works out just fine. He said, as his last words. Ooh, yeah, that's gonna skim the fuel tank. I don't want to do that. Alright, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed, team. Alright, Okay, that didn't go as catastrophically as I thought. Okay. Beautiful. We're just gonna tow these out of the way,
Credits deposited.
and then I'm gonna attempt to just pull the whole fuel tank right off. And we're gonna see what happens. Because all of these are not attached to thrusters anymore. Excellent. And how close to that did I cut here? Okay. Hypothetically, this should work. Okay. Now, the tricky thing is that I need to get this big goober out of the way. I don't think there's anything else valuable attached to that wall, so I might just be able to cut the whole friggin' thing out. Or at least, let's at least attempt this. Are you gonna arc? You're totally gonna arc, aren't you? You piece of shit. There you are. You see, each of these items has like a little health thing attached to it, at least if it's especially fragile or valuable. And when the little squares that are yellow are exhausted, you can see it actually, like, it can become volatile and actually explode. And then, like, if you damage it enough, it just becomes scrap, and you lose most of the value of harvesting it. Yeah.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
I just need to make sure that I don't get electrocuted. Yeah. And boom. And boom.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Okay. Now, do I have a direct path? I need to tow these pipes out of the way. Nope, missed it. Thank you. Nope. There we go. And... one more for the processor. There we go. Let's see here.
Credits
Let
deposited.
me just catch up on chat here before we continue. Stream starts 11:30 p.m. for me, so perfect right after my work. Nice! Glad to hear it. Let me just water. Yeah, where's my cursor? There's my cursor. Do. Thank you. Need those insurance claims, exactly. Oh, you're not in Canada right now. I thought that you were. Like, your whole... I remember you were having some job things happening. Let's see. It's a mech anime, but the pilots work for an insurance company. That sounds terrifying, but is it any good there, Sinziak? Let me know, because I'm open to more mech anime, not gonna lie. In space, no one can hear you skim the fuel tank. Yeah, that's true. Plasma cut with crossed fingers. Yep. Yeah, I end up doing that a lot, though. I don't get electrocuted is definitely also an insurance slogan. Yes, plausible deniability is key. Okay. So, now, I really hope this isn't directly attached to these, because I'm going to be real sad. And this is pretty much just going to be a loss. Because I can't disarm my charges yet. Okay. So we're going to try and tow it. No, it's hard attached to it. Damn. All right. Yeah, there's literally just like no way to actually deal with that. That sucks. Or at least, can I cut through that part of the frame? I mean, it doesn't look like it. I mean, I can, technically. Alright. Did it actually go through? Or is that girder made of the same kind of stuff? No, no, it's not. Okay. Alright, there might be hope for this yet. Let me just zero that in a little bit more. I swear if I just bullshit my way through this and manage to do it, this is going to be hilarious. Gonna back up a little bit. Gonna back up a little bit more.
Salvage destroyed.
Whatever. That's whatever. I have like 6 airlocks, man. Also, yeah, I have hella range on this thing now, so it will just keep on going. So I need to be very mindful of like what is behind whatever it is that I'm cutting. Like that, for instance. Because this thing will just, yeah. Yeah, let's try. Okay. We're gonna do this. Just gonna make sure that my angle's okay. Yep, looks like it. So, this is going to be really interesting, because one thing that this game happens to do that is a problem is it has a bad tendency to pull some, like, quantum entanglement shit, where certain components will be visually separate, but will act as though they are attached. And so, if I manage to somehow cut through all of this, there is still a chance that this will still be attached for no real good reason. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Try and not skim the fuel tank. Like, okay, so that's the corner gun. And that was detached there. So hypothetically, that should be fine. I just need to actually cut through all of these. And just do this like a bunch more. Back up so I can get everything in my crosshairs. How about that? Did that do anything for you? There we go. Yes, hello, Rainy Keys. Welcome on in. We are indeed playing through a little bit of Shipbreaker. We got an update today, which I was not expecting, which includes a couple of new ship types, of which we are currently attempting to dissect one of them, and it is called a Javelin. So there's a lot of stuff, including a big ol' fuel tank right here in the center of it. So I am trying to cut through the frame because I accidentally set a demo charge that I do not have the upgrade to know how to disarm, because that's an upgrade in this game. Okay, and we're gonna back up. Okay. That's... I hate when that happens. Okay. Let me just... gonna grapple a bunch of this, like, bullshit, like, refuse pieces of the frame out of the way. Cutter... Yep. How about that? Okay, so it's floating away, which is a good sign. There we go. So that's all, those are all good signs. Because if it's still attached, it will do something like that. So yeah, this still has a girder attaching it, so... There we go. And it starts to float apart, which is what we want. I really hope that my improvised bullshit works. Because that would be really funny and also really satisfying. Okay, looks like... I just need to, like, clear a bunch of this shit out of the way so I can actually assess what the situation is. Let me get my scanner back up. So, we've cut through this side of the frame, all of the corners there. I think we just have this one remaining up here. If I'm correct. Because, yeah, we pretty much got that. That corner is already cut through as well. Come on. Because I need to get a little bit of overlap. But I also, again, don't want to skim the fuel tank. So...
Air pressure
Well-
level decreasing.
Well, there's the explosive decompression. Well, bright side, we solved our problem with the crawl space that we're gonna have to deal with later. And we don't have to deal with that anymore. So, hey. Making lemons out of lemonade. Okay.
Raw material processed. Credits deposited.
Is there another whole ring still attaching this goddamn thing? Haha! We got the fuel tank, though. Got the fuel tank. Love it. Or, nope, that's the fuel tank plate? It has a separate plate? That's unexpected. Normally, reactors are the only ones that actually have a plate attached to them. I'll take it, I guess.
Salvage secured.
How about
Credits
this?
deposited.
Can I very slowly and firmly grasp it? Can we do that? Can we make that work? Does that work? Yep. Yep. Making it work. It only took one catastrophic explosive decompression, but it's happening. But hey, you know, any explosive decompression you can walk away from, right? That's how the old saying goes. Okay, this thing is... Even though I can tow it, it looks like it's like right up near the limit of what my grapple can pull. Because I need to, like, move it. It will not move faster than this until I push it. So I need to line it up real nice before I do that. Or at least attempt to. Or, you know what, we could make this easy mode. I could just use up a tether and do that instead. Oh, damn you, rotational momentum! Stay. Stay. Sick. Okay. Taken care of. Easy mode.
Credits transferred.
How much of this is processor? All of it? Cool. Good to know. What's that you say? Some of it is supposed to go to the furnace? Don't care. We are done Good vibes only. I am done with that portion of the ship. I spent like 20 minutes on it. This is done. Finito. We are moving on. Also, hello, Punkle Nix. Thank you for coming on in. I know you attempted to come by the stream another time when we were just finishing up, so I'm glad that you are able to join us today. How are you doing? And I hope that you are having a lovely Monday. Let's see here. Let me just do. Shipbreaker, the natural enemy of the fanfic writer. That is also very possible, but sometimes the fanfic writer is the shipbreaker. Is what we call the duality of man. Okay, so we got a crawl space that we can actually go into now, because I blew it the fuck up. Funny how that works. Who's beeping at me? How dare you beep at me? Who are you? Or was that a caution sign? I should have probably been paying attention if it was a caution sign. Every 100 years, shipbreakers assemble for a battle to determine which ships survive and which don't. Yeet the girders. Good old saying. Explosive decompression, the good of my sci-fi theme. That's actually, yeah, no, explosive decompression. I dig it. That actually does sound like a really good band name. Let's see. Great Monday, taking a break from a difficult piece and hanging out. Glad to hear. If I dip, my mom requires me to help set up our tree. Absolutely valid there, Rainy Keys. Not a worry. For whatever duration that you are here with us, I appreciate your company, and I'm sure that everyone in chat does as well. Okay, so we've now taken care of the... Oh, wait. I have this chamber up front. I kind of want to take care of the reactor, because the reactor is going to be the big payday. So interesting thing about pulling reactors out in this game. The moment that you do, they start to melt down. So the key is kind of trying to find a way to create a path from there down to the barge that gets the reactor there as quickly as possible, when it's already started to, explode. So basically, the usual tactic is dismantling everything around the reactor as much as possible before you actually pull it out. So that, we're just gonna do our usual peel the ship like an orange peel thing. Okay, so we're gonna switch cutter heads. And also, yeah, Punkle Nix, what's the piece that you're working on right now that you're taking a break from? I'm curious. More glasswork or something else? Okay. One of these. My durability, I think, should be fine. Yeah, I've got 95% durability still. I'm good. Oh, don't want to damage that. Let me back up a little bit. Okay. Throw the grapple on. Oh, this has got a big old dangly bit attached to it. Would you look at that? Okay. I think I can... Does all that just go to the barge anyways? Because if it all just goes to the barge, I'm not even going to cut it. There's this is just kind of a waste of resources. How about we direct you over here? Take a seat there, sir. Thank you.
Salvage secured. Account credit applied.
Okay. So we got that, which means there's probably one on the other side. And we also have that, engineering cockpit sort of area that we might want to take out before we deal with the thruster on the back here. Because I also need to take the thruster cap off. But before we do that, I need to eject it, which thank goodness that we took that fuel tank out. Because essentially, there's a manual eject switch for the thruster. I'll actually show you guys where it is right now. Where it normally would be or it's not, or there could not be one. That could also be a possibility. Interesting. Ooh, it's a thruster class 2 though. Normally those are on the big boy ships. Interesting. So normally there is a switch on here where you can manually eject the thruster out the back, and then you can harvest it. But if there's still fuel lines attached to it, then it can rupture the fuel line and blow up the thruster. And by can, I mean will. It says there's a chance that it'll happen. It will happen every time. So usually, if you don't have a utility key or something bad has happened, the usual way to deal with that is to flush each of the individual fuel tanks and then remove them each individually, and then you can eject the thruster manually. So you can kind of see how this game very much feeds into the kind of making the puzzle pieces fall into place. That, like, if you've seen any of my posts on Twitter or listened to me ramble on Discord, you know my brain is very much the kind of brain that does that. So just generally systematically solving problems, this is a very satisfying and well-crafted game in terms of that. And there's a lot of, like, hypothesis testing and kind of, I have like an 80% sense of reasoning about how this will work, but I'm not entirely sure, but there's a way for me to test that. And in that respect, it's a very satisfying game. And again, this is also another game that, you know, violence is not a main component, but it's still, like, engaging, and it's still interesting. And it still feels as though there is, like, stakes. So yeah, no, I dig this game a whole lot. It's a different, like, part of my brain that it appeals to than those other action games. But it's delightful. I quite enjoy it quite a bit. Let's see. How dare you beep at me? How dare you come into my stream and you beep at me? Let's see. Client sent me 4 photos and I'm converting to stencils and etching. That does sound like a very ambitious project. Have you done that before, or is this a first timer? Let's see. Absolutely looking it up on Steam right now. Awesome! Yeah, you should, you know what? Oh, y'all, tweet, if you buy this game because of watching me stream it, you should absolutely contact Blackbird Interactive and let them know that, you know, hey, this guy jabbing about our game was the thing that made me want to buy it. So give him stuff, I guess. I don't really know what the actual process is. Presumably, if you talk enough, developers give you stuff. That's my complex understanding of the video game business. Okay. So that's the thruster cap. Oh no, it's a whole piece. Is it a whole piece? Wait a minute. That's very interesting. So I need to, how? That's, okay. So normally, in these games, there's a cut point, and I cut through it. The thruster cap is a separate piece. Ah, here we go. I need to pull the thruster off of the thruster cap, and not the other way around. Interesting design choice they decided to make on that. Don't know why they switched that. But yeah, you pull the whole ass engine out of the ship, and then you send it down to the barge. And on some of the larger ships, there's like 3 different thrusters, and there are branching fuel lines that when you are cutting through the superstructure of the ship, you need to be very precise with your cuts to make sure that you don't accidentally rupture a fuel line while you're trying to do that. Because the fuel lines will usually run right next to the coolant lines, which, if you sever a coolant line from the environmental control unit, the reactor begins to melt down. So, you know, no bueno. Generally want to avoid that. Okay, we got our cutter. Switch to stinger. Come on. Thank you. Do. Got another one of these. And I'm gonna have to detach those airlocks too. Do. Wow, that took a lot of heat to take off. Also, interesting bit of design choice that they did here. So you're hearing this like very nice twangy melody here. I want you to note something. As I get closer in proximity to the reactor, watch what happens to the music. Is it gonna fade or is it gonna make me a liar? Okay, I think it's just when I light up my actual cutter. Because pretty much any time you start to cut a vital point next to something that's volatile, it'll like switch to the like, aw shit, bad shit's gonna happen if you screw this up, son. Like, and it immediately just makes my blood pressure spike about 20 points. But it's a nice little use of audio cues to significantly change the mood of a game without having to do a whole lot else. It's a very minimalistic kind of design. And it's nice because, you know, in a game like this, you kind of want the least amount of static to noise ratio, because it's a problem-solving game, right? You want the least amount of, like, kind of superfluous information being thrown at your players. But you also want to kind of create that tension, right? So I didn't bust up the airlock, did I? Okay, cool. So it's kind of a nice little, using a proximity cue to change the music to, you know, whatever the relevant mood is for that moment. Yeah, it's kind of a cool little choice. I like it a lot. It's kind of one of those little details that you can often miss if you're not, like, especially super hyper-focused like I tend to be. But it's, I appreciate it. It's kind of one of those things that, like, I'm like, hey, cool, developer. Person who worked on this feature of the game. Cool, good on you. I like you. I like your gumption, kid. You got moxie. Okay. Let's see. Do. Must away, have fun, don't explode. I promise nothing. Well, okay, I promise fun. I don't know if I can promise not exploding with a clear conscience, but have a lovely time putting up your holiday vegetation of whatever kind you are doing, Rainy. And thank you for dropping on in. Okay, so got that. This isn't still compressed, is it? It isn't. Okay, good. I didn't want to have 2 explosive decompressions in one stream. I'm gonna end up like, you know, 1 decompression per stream, that's valid. More than 1, you're gonna end up pulling something. Alright. Actually, what time are we sitting at? We're sitting at about 2 hours. You know what I think I'm gonna do, actually, is I am going to take a quick bio break, real quick, and then we will hop back in. We'll call it about a 5-minute break or so, and then when we come back, we'll try and finish off this big old hunk of junk here and take the reactor out of it. So yeah, I will put y'all on Be Right Back, and you can even listen to the dulcet tones of this twanging music in the background for about 5 minutes, and then we will be right back with more fun. So, and as always, if you are having a good time at the stream, please let your friends know on social media. Bring them on in, the more the merrier, and, you know, always good to bring more people in to see a pretty cool, fun game. Alright, so we will be right back in about 5 minutes or so. Rest up, take your meds, posture check, hydrate, do everything you need to do to take care of yourselves, and I will see you in a few minutes. Okay, and welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is freshly refreshed, hydrated, all stretched out and limber. And I hope that everybody's having a lovely time. Let me just catch up on chat. I saw some Supergiant chat there as well. Wrapping my Christmas carrot in string lights. I also ate the Christmas carrot. The Christmas carrot? I feel like that's a tradition that I am not entirely familiar with. Let's see. And then talk about Transistor. I am, despite being a huge fan of Supergiant, I shamefully must admit that I have yet to dig into Transistor. It has been on my Steam library forever, and I do intend to do it at some point. I am just an infamous procrastinator. Actually, here, let me... What? Yep. No, that's the select button. Let's see, approaching it as an action game. Yeah, it's interesting. It's, you know, it's one of those things like when I was talking about in my Bastion playthrough, where it's always interesting to see the DNA of Supergiant's design choices, that kind of, there's a through line through most of their games. Arguably all of their games, though, you know, you have variations based off of genre and things like that. But there is kind of that, you know, you have the slower paced sort of gameplay that, you know, because you have Bastion, which is, you know, an action game, but a slower paced action game. And it almost feels like there was a divergence, where kind of the slower aspects of Bastion and kind of the more thoughtful approaches to gameplay, like using the ranged weapons and things like that, kind of almost took a divergent path from what led us to Hades. And then it kind of went in that direction of, like, you know, you have a more tactical approach of Transistor, and then you have a very... Like, I don't really know how to describe it other than just, like, a sports approach in Pyre. So it's one of those things where I swear at some point I'm going to write a lengthy article about, you know, games journalism as a whole and how kind of the very kind of vague terms by which games journalists will discuss, like, you know, studios as a whole thing, as if a studio is a person, kind of... I wish that they wouldn't do it for an abundance of reasons, but for one of them, just as, like, a game nerd, I would love to know, like, okay, who specifically were on the teams that worked on these particular games, what did they do on these games? And then when they moved on to, like, other projects still at the same studio, or even if they moved otherwise or elsewhere, oh god, I'm stuck up against something. Like, what specifically did they do? Like, I would love to know, like, and, you know, it's not as if I can't find this information out, but I would love for it to be more readily available to be like, oh yeah, that guy or that person who, like, worked on this specific asset, or who was the one who kind of came up with the idea for this mechanical incarnation of some kind of gameplay. Like, get to know more the specifics of what people brought to specific projects. Because I feel like right now it's this very amorphous blob, the way that things are discussed. Once again, kind of discussing... I definitely don't want to skim the reactor by doing this. Okay, cool. Once again, talking about companies as if they're people, and, like, a 500-person team as if it's, like, 5 people. And then we're gonna do a little bit of this, and we're gonna flip this, and we're gonna go over here. I'm gonna do that, and we're gonna go over here, and we're gonna do a little bit of that. Oh, wait, nope. That was enough cutting. Okay, that should have cut through the whole thing, but it didn't. Are we having a quantum entanglement moment here, Shipbreaker? Oh, it's because I blew the shit out of it before, and there's also a computer thing right here. So, a weird thing with the way that objects being attached to other objects works in this game. So, you'll notice that this wall is completely detached from the frame, but this table is attached to the floor. Now, this kind of, the way that my reticule changes, so I'm just looking, my reticule normally, my reticule looks like this when I can pull something off of something else. So things that are attached to one another, fuel tanks, things like that. For electrical things, that will result in arcing a lot of the time. However, there are some weird collision effects that occur when, say, a table is attached to a wall. Because right now, I can't move that wall. It's still attached to the ship. This table is holding this wall to the ship. And I'll show you what I mean. So that table is now pulled off, and I can now move that wall freely. So they're just kind of, and you know, it's not to trash on the developer or anything, but because there are like so many of these different sort of, in a game with these procedurally generated objects that all need to work and have weight and things like that. Hey, look, a portrait of a random person. I guess I can take that. But it's interesting to see these odd little kind of edge cases where it's like, wait a minute, I'm sorry, this bunk bed is holding the hull of the ship attached to the ship and nothing else. Okay, that's a little bit weird. And it isn't something that necessarily breaks, like, it's still a fun game, but it's still kind of one of those things to be like, alright, well, I feel as though maybe this should be addressed at some point, because that feels a tad silly. Alright, where was that battery pack? I saw a battery pack come off of that thing. There you go. Electrical, there we are. It's still arced. That's irritating. Okay. Got my scanner, structural, and then we only have a couple of electrical components left. This table can go in the furnace. Wow, that table was out for blood. It just came right at me. Okay. We can reconvene for some in-depth Supergiant analysis. I have a lot of feels about their games. Yes. I mean, and Supergiant is still one of my favorite developers, don't get me wrong. Just also in, you know, the way that they treat their employees like human beings, which is apparently a minority approach to things in the games industry, which always seemed a little bit silly. But hey, there you go, I guess. And just, they make quality shit. Like, they make quality shit at low prices. And I fuck with that. That is absolutely something that I strongly approve of. Because I don't have $70 per game to be spending on a game. So if I do happen to spend $70 on something, I hope that it absolutely blows my doors off. But most of the time, I will most likely not be spending more than $30 on a game. And Supergiant, the only time that I had a game by them that I was like, eh, was like Pyre, but then also, Pyre just kind of wasn't my thing. And I'm not going to harsh on a game that just, I'm looking at the genre, I'm looking at it, and I'm like, I respect the experimentation that was going on here, but I don't think that it's going to be for me. Which is 100% a valid approach to something. Doesn't necessarily have to be bad if you don't like it. Okay. Right, I want to get rid of that cockpit. So that's an air. What the? Is this a separate panel? It is a separate panel. It's a big ol' panel. It's just nanocarbon. Nothing more specific? Okay, fair enough. As long as I can put it in the processor and sell it, that works. Boom. Perfect. It's like a rail guide, it looks like. Something like that. Not entirely sure. Well, it's processor food now. Okay, so the airlock's already detached. These doors are already taken care of. So if it's just like the other cockpit, yep, we got some cut points in here. We're just gonna do those right up. Beautiful. There goes the roof. And there's another 2 cut points right over here. Oh, want that atmospheric regulator. Thank you. Please and thank you. Beautiful. This is definitely an interesting new ship design that they've introduced. It's so radically different than all of the other stuff that they had before in the game that I'm really enjoying it. As weird as it is and as kind of complex as it is to deal with. Oh, there's the roof. I was wondering where it was. It was directly above my head. I like it because I was kind of like, I've learned the other kind of ship archetypes already, and apart from stuff like, you know, haunted AI nodes and things like that, I pretty much kind of got them figured out. But this is a whole new dynamic to the problem. Like the whole take it apart from the outside in, which I feel like is kind of a misnomer, but that's kind of a different whole thing. But regardless, it takes, once again, the same dynamic that the game is very good at.
Fuel levels are low.
Okay, so I might need a refuel. Is this detached? I don't know. Well, I feel like they should change that alert. I really think they should change that alert. Because, like, 75% durability to get a big, like, alarm like that is... feels like you get... It's a little bit obnoxious. A little bit obnoxious, not gonna lie. Let's see. Let me catch up on chat here for a moment. Let's see. Pause playing feature. Pyre's the one I'm going to try next. Should get into, but I still really love it. The voice actress for Dusa and Aphrodite live streams Hades. I did not. That's really, really cool. That's also really interesting because I know a lot of voice actors are kind of like, you know, once they're done with something, they're like obviously if you're a voice actor, you don't like hate the sound of your own voice to the point where it's like, ugh, but like when you're done with working on something, you're kind of like done with it. So that's really interesting that she decides to stream a game that she's in. So I'll have to maybe go check that out. Yeah, thanks for the heads up. Let's see here. So, alright, so we got a couple of computer terminals. Pretty standard. Why are you bugging out my grapple? Should be fine. Quit with your sass. Thank you. Go to the barge. Is that a cut point? It looks yellow, which is usually the sign of a cut point, but... Oh, there's my cut points. Cool. Cool. We can do that. Alright, let's take care of this all in one go. Beautiful. Back to my grapple. 2 for 1. 2 for 1. 2 for 1. No, okay. Just one. It's okay, I'll come back for the other one. One thing that I would like in future updates, and it's like a tiny little thing, but I would like the option to not attempt to detach two attached objects, and just kind of move it as one thing. And the reason for that is kind of the gameplay example of there are these heavy cargo crates that you can get in some of the different ships. And sometimes it's easier to, like, they're stacked on top of one another, but they are also treated as attached objects in the game. And a lot of the time, it's actually just easier to, like... okay, so am I gonna have to tether you? Am I really gonna use up a tether on this? That's so silly. Oh well. But basically, like, you can have a stack of 3 shipping crates, but if you start to drag one, then it will start to become detached from the other ones. And, like, I get why that is, but at the same time, I'm like, but what if I had an option to try and not pull them apart? Because I feel like that would be really useful for kind of trying to streamline how you approach these things. Which kind of ultimately, well, that it's still attached to the ship. Well, that's interesting. Okay, let's emergency tether this. Hey, physics. Oh, hey, but look, the reactor is now exposed. So, that actually, hey, serendipity. It actually worked out. Look at that. Oh no, a table. Yeah, screw you. I'll destroy 100 tables before I let this company die. Okay. Alright. Okay, so the emergency tether seemed to pull it back from the brink, so that seemed to work. And this one seemed to not be... Oh, it canceled all my tethers, that's why. Okay. Because one tether should be plenty to tow that away. Alright. So, now we do the reactor. So, I think I'm in a reasonably good position right now. Do I already... Yep, and it's just the reactor left. Okay. Alright, team. Stress time. Come on, come here. Hey! Perfect. That wasn't too bad. And the work order's done. Is all of this processor material? Because I might not even want to, like, pull this all apart, because that's just durability. It's true. Hey, listen. At the FBC, you cannot trust a single table. Office supplies will kill you, and not just when I hurl them at you telekinetically. You never know whether or not it's like, I don't know, it'll be like a toll booth that turns you into a mongoose or something like that. Just some kind of wild shit. Altered items are weird, man. Let's see here. Tables cannot be trusted. Mark that down. Okay. So there's a whole bunch of shit that just happened here. So is it attached to the frame? Is that the problem? Because I kind of like slid it out, but it got caught on something. Like enough that it took the entire goddamn ship with it.
Warning. Fuel levels are critical.
Yeah.
Return to the master jet to purchase supplies.
Yeah, it's still stuck on something. Okay, so... A door? What was the door? It was just a hatch to the outside of the ship? That's... okay. That feels silly. Can I move it now? I swear to God, if that was the thing that was keeping it attached to the ship. That's so silly. And there's another 2 cut points underneath it. Okay. So I need to slide it out. And then there are 2 more cut points underneath the console. Okay. That, for a ship that's rated easy, that seems really complex. Or at least, like, the fact that it's hidden. There we go. Good lord. 20 minutes later. Okay, cool. Well, it's taken care of.
Processing valuable objects.
Okay. Now are we good? I can take the floor and I can put it into the furnace. Would that be acceptable? Or this part can go into the processor. Or there are another 2 cut points under here. There are another 2 cut points. Alright, cool, cool. It's alright. It's all good. Come on, stay still. Come on. Okay, now what the hell did that even detach? Okay, it looks like there's actually like a rail guide, like a wedge that's keeping it in. Interesting. I don't quite understand the reason for that choice, but hey, it's all good. We got through it, team. Good job, everyone. Give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, I need to go get more fuel. Okay. Court and Barrick and DM it to you later if you're like, okay, yeah, sure, I'd be down. I am definitely interested. Let's see. So, okay, and then it's 5. Interesting. Okay, so we're gonna get some more fuel.
Fuel levels restored.
Oh, wow, that gives me way less fuel than it used to. That's interesting. Damned capitalism. Okay. So pretty much all I have left now... Okay. So we actually have this. The arrow bridge goes to the furnace. So I could have just sliced through that the whole time. Yeah, I could have just sliced through that the whole time. Alright, well, I feel silly. Okay. Alright, so let me just back up a little bit. And can I angle this to cut the whole flippin' thing off at once? Pardon my language? I can.
Salvage is destroyed. Please avoid damaging valuables.
Yeah, eat shit. And cool. That can go to the processor as well. Okay, but it's now it's scrap. Okay, but the arrow bridge was gonna go to the furnace anyways. But now that I've damaged it, it's scrap and will also go to the furnace. Okay, cool. Cool. That's interesting. That's an interesting choice. Get out of here. Get out of here. It goes to Super Hell. Yes. Much like Castiel. It goes to Super Hell. Okay. That's not attached to anything. That's just an outer ring.
Material deposited.
That's still attached. Yeah, hey, listen, don't blame me. Blame the writers of Supernatural. It goes to double hell for, like, and here's the thing. I would not even know that if it wasn't for Drawfee. Like, I haven't watched Supernatural since season 5. That I was just kind of like, I heard that and I was like, you know what, that tracks. To be 100% honest, that tracks. Okay, and let me just take the stinger out. Beautiful. And we'll go... Okay. Hypothetically... Okay. But it's still scrap. Okay. Alright, cool. Whatever. That's fine. Alright. So we're just gonna wheel this around. Cool.
Valuable object processed. Credits.
Oh no, I destroyed scrap. I'm a terrible person. Alright. So we pretty much just got the internals left to salvage and whatever like computer components are in here. Oh, actually, this is just the airlocks. So I've got the atmospheric regulator, which can go down there.
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
I might just rip this out of the wall, to be 100% honest. But these are going to arc if I pull them off. You know what? I gave it 3 seconds of thought, and I don't care. Okay. You know what? All this shit goes to the furnace. Don't care. I feel like all of kind of the stakes and everything kind of go out of the game. It's just like, I just salvaged a nuclear reactor, to be 100% honest. I'm not real concerned about your couch. It's like, oh no, I will have lost the $5 that I will get for that. It's like, I'll live. Okay. So that's detached from the airlock already. And there's another one on the other side. So if I had one piece of feedback to maybe give to the developers about the new Javelins, it's that, like, so taking apart a complex problem is satisfying. However, there are certain issues with making a problem cumbersome, but not adding complexity to it that makes it kind of more satisfying. One of the things that I'm noticing with the Javelin is it has a fuck ton of airlocks. So in one sense, it's, you know, the game is telling you take it apart from the outside rather than the inside. And it's like, okay, cool, that's valid, that's a fine approach to that. However, each one of these airlocks has about 6 cut points on it. And they're in super confined spaces. So normally you can pull off some kind of like tricky welding maneuvers to kind of get 3 or 4 of them at once. However, in the confined space, you need to be able to back up far enough to be able to do that. And it doesn't really allow you to do that. So essentially, you take kind of the complexity of an interesting problem, but there are a bunch of these very like cumbersome extra pieces that you have to then deal with. It's like in earlier builds of the game, in some of the... I mentioned that there are ships that are sort of like a 747, like a station hopper. And one of the things that kind of people commented on... Let me throw my scanner on because I might be forgetting something structural. Yep, there's one thing missing up here. One of the things is that on one of these station hoppers, you would have a work order objective of like 33 pieces of furniture. And it's not like you can pick up a bank of chairs and it would count as 5. You would have to individually grab 33 pieces of furniture. And like, while I get that it's supposed to be challenging, and while it's supposed to present an additional degree of complexity to the problem, what it ends up doing is it just feels really kind of labor intensive for not a significant increase in like how satisfying it is to do it, for instance. It's just, all right, I'm just going to spend 5 minutes moving each chair individually, and it doesn't feel super good. And I feel as though there's a version of this same problem with the abundance of these airlocks that each require like 6 cuts each in a confined space that I then have to deal with, and then also have these frames that are, as I mentioned earlier, 9 separate panels. So you can't really cut them all at once, because what will happen is this. Like, little chunks will kind of fall off of it, and you'll have more debris in a tight space to deal with. So I can see the design perspective as to why they decided to make a ship like this. And in terms of like, okay, well, you're used to taking apart a ship from the inside out. Let's make one where you don't have a lot of room, so you have to take it apart from the outside in. Fair enough. But I think that a couple of aspects of the execution maybe need a little bit of refinement. Because, this ship is rated easy. Normally I can take apart one of these ships in about an hour. Like, the lower tier ships that I was able to take apart, like, I'm literally just going to throw this into the processor because it's boring and it doesn't feel fun to take apart the other aspects of it. And I'm going to lose, like, all of the bits of salvage that I get on the inside. But ultimately, it doesn't feel fun enough to justify me spending more time on it. And, like, the fuel line with, like, the big tank in the middle, and, like, some kind of weird other dynamics of, like, figuring out how to decompress everything, all of that did. 100% all of that did. But it just... There's something to refining a gameplay loop to where you can't just add additional repetitions. You might colloquially refer to it as just like grinding, for instance. But when you iterate on something, when I'm making tabletop game related things, I'm very much about, let's make this exactly as complex as it needs to be and no more complex than that. And now that can mean that something is can be something that's very complex if it calls for it, or it can be something that is like very simple because it isn't really kind of like that's the level of complexity that it needs. But kind of paring things down, like whittling it down to where anything extraneous that does not add to the experience is kind of hewn away, I think is kind of part of that iterative process. And I think that, like, and admittedly, the Javelin literally came out today. Like, that ship model that we've been taking apart all stream, that update came out about an hour before I started streaming today. So on one, it's like, yeah, no, it's at the stage where it's reasonable to kind of go like, okay, this could probably use a little bit more refinement in early access. But yeah, that's kind of discussing specifically the ways in which things require refinement. I feel like, kind of brings us forward both in terms of like making the things that we love the best version of themselves, but then also as creatives kind of carrying that mindset forward into whatever work that we make. And that's kind of one philosophy that I try and bring into a lot of the stuff that I design. So yeah, let's see. So we got all of 20 whole ass minutes left. What are people's thoughts? Let's see. That debt load, I say the scanner went. Yeah. So you start the game with $1 billion in debt. And the rest of the game is you paying down that debt. And one of the things, like when I'm upgrading my equipment, one of the options for each of the pieces of equipment is being able to purchase it. Because when you start the game, all of your equipment is rented. And you pay a rental fee for each of your pieces of equipment until you decide to spend a certain number of credits to buy it so that you can remove that extra fee from your HAB fee every time that you go back when you end a shift. So it's it's kind of funny because, like, in the early portions of the game, you will salvage a ship that's, like, worth 3 million credits, and you will end your shift with more debt than you started it. And so you end up, like, getting your credits, which are the next to LT at the top right-hand corner of my screen. You'll end up getting more credits from data drives and collectibles that you find on the ship than the ship itself, because the credits are applied after you get back to the hab rather than when you're getting paid for your day's work. But then kind of like later, like, let's see, let me go to my ship catalog here. Because right now the max that I can do is 6. So, but then you get stuff that's worth like 15 million, 13 million, 14 million, and then you're able to kind of start racking it up. But then that's also because you're able to kind of like cut down on those additional costs by actually, you know, freaking owning the equipment that you're doing work in. It is very much like hellish late capitalism type of stuff, but it is it's effective in being like, God damn it, why can't I accumulate any money? And it's just like, that's capitalism, Kyle. Like, you know, yeah, and it kind of sucks, but then also it provides an interesting dynamic that you almost need to find a secondary revenue stream apart from the actual work that you're doing, until such time as you can buy your equipment, stop that upkeep of all those rental fees, and then things like durability and all of that sort of stuff, and you can pay to upgrade those, and then just the general effectiveness of all of your equipment. So let's see, what are we going to upgrade? I think we're going to do durability improvement. Because I've still got 88, 44... And yeah, I can't afford any of these yet. I cannot afford to be able to disarm my mines yet. Yeah, we're gonna go laser cutter. So I won't have enough time to do another full ship, but I think what I will do... do I have... I do have repair kits, so we will repair those. And I'm definitely going to need the scanner for this, because what we're going to do is I'm finally going to actually do the thing that the stream was named after, in that we are going to look at a ghost ship. So let me go to the ship catalog. So any of these that have the weird missing nose sort of garbledy-gook on them have AI nodes in them. And they're eerie. And they're actually, a really good job is done kind of creating that whole atmosphere. So before I actually harvest anything off the interior of these ships, or I mean, I guess I suppose I could attempt to do that without taking those things off the ship, but it's very ill-advised, because they'll do stuff like make the airlocks work on their own and open and close doors and, you know, melt down the reactor, as I mentioned earlier. Alright, so let's take a quick look at this using my scanner. So, if I can see them, you can kind of see them a little bit here. Any of these little red dots are these AI nodes. And I need to burn those off with my, my cutter. So we're going to... And you'll notice that the comforting, twangy Space Texas music went away. And all we're left with is... Are you just straight up not gonna work? I swear to God, if the airlock is just straight up not gonna work. Okay. Alright, so we're gonna do that. Okay. Interesting. And all of this is pressurized. Okay. Am I just gonna have to, like, wait out here until one of you little shits decides to let me into the goddamn ship? Is that a thing? Or are you just being weird? Nope, it just, because I didn't have my grapple out, it didn't let me. Alright, that was a little bit weird.
Airlock pressure levels dropping.
Alright, now we open this up. And then you have things like this. Creepy as hell disembodied helmet. Okay, so scanner, I think that's the route to the crawl space. Yep, cool. I should actually decompress all of this first. The problem being that even if I decompress it, the AI nodes might just be like, lol JK, and like fill it back up with air again.
Pressure level decreasing.
But at the very least, it improves my visibility. Alright, so let's throw the scanner on. There you are, you little shits. So this placement is pretty easy to deal with, because they're just on an outside panel, and that's fine. Also, they scream. Okay. So interesting thing, because we actually I haven't shown y'all the larger ships yet. They have a much more complex system. So before you remove any electrical components, what you're going to want to do are remove the fuses. Because if you don't do that, then every time you remove something that's an electrical component, it will arc. But if you take the fuses out and cut the power, it won't. But there's a pattern to pulling the actual fuses out. I'm not going to do it right now because I actually need the computer panel that these fuses power, that's in that room and has a couple of AI nodes attached to it, because of course it does, to vent the fuel from the thrusters. Because if I don't vent the fuel from the thrusters, they'll blow up when I try and take them out. And then you'll notice that the reactor in this one is much, much larger than the other one that we were dealing with. And it also has its own dedicated fuel set, and it also has a dedicated coolant vent. And so you'll notice how close they are to these structural pieces. So you have to be very careful, especially when you have the upgrades that I do for my cutter for how long the range is. Because, if you cut through that, the reactor starts to melt down, and you need to figure out a way to cut through all of this jimmy jams right here in order to pull it out and get it down to the barge while it's in the middle of melting down. So you'll notice these are the places where it is super annoying that AI nodes show up, because they are attached to a fuel line. And if I skim that, then the whole goddamn thing goes up, and I can usually lose a thruster. Which, taking a look at my work order, yep, I need all 3 thrusters in order to complete that work order. So the ship that I was doing before, a little bit tricky, but like more because it's a newer ship design rather than necessarily because it's super, super complex. There is very little margin for error, and these little bastards right here were just like, hey, we're going to attach to the most flammable and volatile thing possible. And it's like, yeah, I bet you are. So yeah, that's a whole thing. But I think, that being said, just to kind of give you like the demonstration, I wanted to give y'all a look at what kind of the bigger, like more difficult ships look like. and just how freaking huge they are. Like this, I actually have to jet to go all the way to the other end of it. We got all the coolant down here. We have a separate corridor for the cockpit, which I can see if I open up my scanner here. And the thing has vertebrae. The ship has vertebrae. It's so goddamn big. But yeah, so it can consume, like, I'll spend 2-3 hours on one of these ships, which is a nice kind of afternoon project sort of thing, if you enjoy that sort of thing. But yeah, I do think that what we're going to do is we're probably going to leave it here for this evening. And I think that, let's see, who am I going to send you to visit? Because Sin, are you still there? Or are you still, like, are you streaming tonight? Or are you just chilling? Are you taking the Christmas week off? Because I might actually have to, like, look at Twitch front page and see who's doing what and maybe send y'all over to talk to another one of our friends or some cool people. If people have requests or suggestions about who is doing cool stuff at the moment, this DJ takes requests because I don't know nearly that many people on Twitch. Oh, it looks like Okadrian is doing some stuff. So why don't we send you all over there? Ba-ba-da-ba-ba. Whoop. Yup. And yeah. So thanks everyone once again for coming by tonight. I appreciate you, and I especially appreciate the generosity of the folks who threw some subs out there, who to Crow for subscribing, and just generally for all of you choosing to spend your evening on Monday on this week with me. So yeah, and I was glad to have you. I'm glad that you were able to swing by and hang out. Hopefully you'll be able to do it a little bit more often. We got Dead Cells going on. Okay. Yeah, no, there's a few different people doing stuff. So I think what we'll do is sling y'all over to say hi to Okadrian tonight. And everybody take a good evening. We probably won't... we'll see you on Wednesday, so we'll see what goodies we have then. Have a good evening, everyone.